Good afternoon. Yay! Welcome to the Chancellor Spring Town Hall. We want to welcome Dr. Brockbank and thank him for doing this on our campus. I'm going to read the native land acknowledgement before we get started. We are honored to acknowledge that the community colleges of Spokane and our main campuses for Spokane Falls and Spokane Community College are located on the traditional and sacred homelands of the Spokane tribe. We also provide services in a region that includes the traditional and sacred homelands of the Coeur d'Alene tribe, Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation, Kalispel tribe, and the Nez Perce tribe. We pay our respects to tribal elders, both past and present, as well as to Indigenous people today. This land holds a cultural DNA, and we are honored and grateful to be here on their traditional lands. We give thanks to the legacy of the original people and their descendants and pledge to honor their stewardship and values. And I always try when we read this to think of something that we are doing that's an action step to repair and our relationships with our tribal partners. And I want to just do a quick shout out and a thank you to our facilities folks, our capital folks, faculty advisors of the Environmental Club and the Red Nation Club, and our students, and Mark Ramos, who have been working very closely together to design green space when we eliminate the old building, the old fine arts building, and it's going to be very much a reflective and indigenous space with native plants and a lot of other wonderful things designed by those folks. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.
Thank you, President Messina. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Spring Town Hall Forum with the Chancellor. It's a beautiful day outside, so thank you for being in here with us and online. I'm Melanie Rose, Chief Institutional Advancement and External Affairs Officer. So we're going to get started. We have an opening question. We have a lot of questions today, but you guys be thinking of your questions too. Okay, a few weeks ago, you sent out an all-everyone email prompted by a story in the SFCC student newspaper about your Parkinson's diagnosis. What more would you like to share today?
So admittedly, a couple Fridays ago, I was in a little bit of a panic because an article did come out from the student newspaper, and I'll talk about the student part of this first. So I had approached Jason Nix, a faculty member in journalism, about sharing this story and I thought like, hey, the best thing to do is give students a first right of refusal there. I think many of you will recognize I'm a huge fan of the student learning experience. I had a tattoo contest last year. Maybe you've seen the Recyclops video. Like, I realize there is risk involved with student projects. But I was happy to do that with the student group and work closely with Jason and the students on that. Through the process of interviewing and stuff, they came up with a different perspective than I thought, maybe the interview was going and maybe what I envisioned sharing. We worked that out and we've kind of retracted that and fixed some statements of fact. I think there's an article coming out later, which I haven't seen. But I want to share with everybody kind of the major points of that. The reason let me say this. So I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in December of 21. That was on a Wednesday. I flew over to Seattle for the weekend for president's meetings, came back, and my response to those couple of days, you have some mortality in those moments, right? So you do a lot of thinking. And so what I told my wife on that Sunday was, I think I'm going to tell the whole campus by making a video. And I love my wife. She's so good at the way she reacts to stuff. She says, "Are you sure about that?" Which is code for, that's a bad idea. But I was really convinced that was the right thing to do. And I've never regretted it. It actually was the best thing I've done with the disease. And the reason I did it at that time was twofold. One is it's a visible disease. Like, I have tremors right now. You can see that if you're looking. And then the other one was just the simple fact that we had some people at the SCC at that point who were suffering through some medical stuff, and just the sense that, hey, everybody's got something, right? And I think I wrote that in the email, which has become the number one reason I do share that information, is because And I thought it was really appropriate at this point in time, as many people are struggling with different things, to reinforce the fact that it doesn't matter who you're looking at, what their situation is, how Facebook perfect it looks or doesn't look. There's nobody that walked into this room today that is not carrying something on their shoulders. You know, your own medical situation, caretaker, lost your pet, financial trouble, car broke down. There's nobody that walks into our doors every day who doesn't have some of that. And so that's kind of my way to keep reinforcing the fact that we deal with people every day, whether they're students or coworkers who have things going on, and we want to give people grace with that throughout that time. And so that's the reason I share that, and that's the reason I continue to share it, and always will. I am not retiring, by the way. I'm doing great, feel really pretty good. I think the biggest hindrance for me with my disease is I don't type as fast as I used to. Whoop-de-doo. And there's just ways to work around that. So I feel great. I oftentimes will tell people I think I'm better than 80% of the people in the room right now. And so I think I'm trying to, when I speak about this, I try to keep a positive tone, understand that it is part of the journey and part of the challenge, but one that I think has some value to others, which is why I share it. So I'm not sure what the communicator story will look like when it comes out, and I do want to thank Jason and the students for working with us on that and realizing that there's a learning experience as part of that, but that's kind of what happened. I was minorly panicked on last Friday. I just looked at it like, oh boy, I gotta stop that. But that's kind of the story I try to share when it comes to the Parkinson's disease.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So we're going to do a couple of questions about kind of budget and federal stuff, and then we're going to shift gears and do some celebrating. So you've been busy advocating for Head Start and higher education at the federal level. How's your advocacy work going, and what's the latest?
I don't know how to answer part of that question because I don't know what our advocacy has done specifically, but I think there's been a tremendous amount of effort at a federal level this year. And I told some people in the last week, you know, generally in the cycle of what we do here, at this time of the year, we're done with the state budget in Olympia, the Board of Trustees is approving our budget for next year, and we are eyes focused on graduations, right? Like that's kind of the cycle we're rolling into, and then the idea that we'll have a different kind of work for those of us who are here during the summertime. That's completely different now. I mean, I am immersed in the federal legislation process and how to advocate and be present for our needs. And how it's going is a mixed bag, as you might imagine. I'll start with the really good part, which is we were convinced that Head Start would be non-funded in the president's budget, which it was not. And it has made it out of the House funded, and so is now in the Senate as a funded program, which is a tremendously important piece for our institution as well as our community. And I'll say this over and over again, Head Start is the start of the workforce pipeline. If we don't have those services that take our young children who are need help kind of leveling the playing field, if we don't have that, you have people who are going to constantly be chasing an equal opportunity. And so I think it's incredibly important that that remains there. And then the other thing I've learned by working with Bobby and her team is that if you watch what happens with Head Start, we always think about the kids. There's probably Head Start kids in the room. But what it does for the parents is equally, if not even more impactful when they have reliable childcare and also opportunities to better themselves, whether they're coming here to upgrade their education or just continue to work. It's all really important. And so having that funded currently in the Senate is a huge win for us. And I think it probably will remain funded. It's a bipartisan topic, but we're not kind of letting up with the idea that anything can happen at the 12th hour. Other advocacy things I would have to say, we have to, as a group, start watching real carefully what's happening at the federal level. What came out of the House Higher Ed or House Workforce and Education Committee are some strategies that are pretty damaging to higher education. I'm not going to go through a bunch of them because what's in there generally is in the Senate, and that will be heavily debated and modified on the way through. What I will tell you is that the charge was to reduce the Pell Grant budget by $330 billion. And the way you do that is you restrict access to Pell, right? So students who, under that model, students who are taking less than 8 credits are no longer eligible for a Pell. And what I'll say to legislators, our congressional delegates is, those are the students who take 1 class a quarter. That's your single parent, your person who's working 2 jobs and just squeezing in that little tiny bit to get to a better place, and you're taking away their one incentive and their one resource. So that's troubling to us. And there's other kind of crazy things in there about us repaying defaulted student loans and little things like that. But the part that I think is important for us is, as it goes to the Senate and that starts getting modified and pushed back and forth, there are going to be moments where we may ask for some advocacy for folks, and that's a personal choice. We provide information, you do whatever you want to with it, but the days of us just flittering through the summer as the federal government reapproves funding that we use to assist our students is over. And what can happen in this legislative session can dramatically impact how we operate our institutions. So more to be said there as time goes along. Actually, I'll go a little bit further on that one too. I want to say, because the last time we had a town hall, it was all about politics. And since that time, have spent a ton of time with Representative Baumgartner's office. And I want to explain why Representative Baumgartner is incredibly important. Number one, he's with the majority party. Number two, his committee assignments include education and workforce. And although I don't think our advocacy will change the federal platform or agenda, we want Representative Baumgartner to know us, to know what we do, to know what the value is, and to have us in his head when there are opportunities to talk about community colleges in those committee assignments. And so that's why I spend that time with his group, educating. He took tours of both colleges and a Head Start site. Not him, but his staff did a couple of weeks ago. We're going to continue to build that information. And admittedly, he is already an advocate and supporter of community colleges. He demonstrated that both in the state Senate as well as through some conversations we've had. But that hasn't resulted in the things that are helping us yet. So that's kind of the strategy. Of course, when you get into the Senate, Senators Murray and Cantwell have always been longtime supporters of our work. Oftentimes when we go visit them and advocate for stuff, they're half a step ahead of us. But there's still work to be done there as we get going through there. So I think there's some positive things that have happened for us, but there are some things we have to really pay attention to, and we'll continue to keep people updated on that as we go through the motions.
Okay, thank you. So shifting gears, now that Governor Ferguson has signed the budget, is this my phone?
Yeah, off and on.
Hello? Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to keep talking. Now that Governor Ferguson has signed the budget, what are the ramifications for Spokane colleges, and what are the next steps for our budget?
So I think this information is mostly trickled out what's happened with our state budget, and in a general sort of response to that is much, much, much better than expected. I think those of us in leadership who are working with politicians, both presidents and I and others here locally, we're really, really, really worried about a really damaging budget cycle. When you're talking about a $12 to $14 billion gap in the budget, everybody's at risk. We did absolutely take a reduction, but it was so much less than what we had feared that I think we kind of shrugged our shoulders because we had done the work already to reduce our expenses to cover it. That means that there are going to be some changes and some adjustments, but they're not draconian, they're not huge, but they are some things where we've shifted the use of money into different areas. We are making some adjustments in how we allocate. And we're trying to take a greater approach to a unified district where some money can be used from different places for different units. And so we will actually go to the board in June and get the budget approved. It'll be kind of high level because we're still adjusting and tweaking at both colleges and the district office the finer points of how we're doing that. And there's an important part of that process, which is being kind and thoughtful and strategic about the sharing of that information locally. And we're not all done with that yet. Close though. And then the other part is I promised this, and it will happen probably late July, we'll provide a comprehensive report that shows where all the reductions happened, all the strategies that we used across the district to make the adjustment to the budget reduction. And so there should be no secret as to what did the district office do, what did SCC do, what did SFCC do, and where's the money coming from and going to. And I think that's an entirely different approach, but I'll tell you, 2 years ago when I interviewed for this job, the word transparent budget process was used over and over and over again, and that is part of the delivery on those things, is we're doing that differently. There shouldn't be any secrets about how that works. So the general response was, we all owe our local legislators a thanks for defending community colleges. We owe Governor Ferguson a thanks for coming out right at the beginning of the session and saying, we're not going to cut the community college system. We did a little bit, but in comparison to what happened to our four-year partners, we are in great shape. And also you'll see some other things I think that you want to look at too. I remember when we had, maybe it was the last town hall, I said, if you want to be working at a community college during this time, you want to be working at this one. And you'll see that across the state, and I'm not going to name names, but I can tell you there's one college that has already announced that they will discontinue basically all of their Bachelor of Applied Science programs, and they're talking about eliminating all their sports all at the same time. So these cuts for us were ones that we could adjust to based on our fiscal management going forward, and not making bad choices in the past. And so we are much, as I promised before, we are in much better shape than everybody else. I know President Martin is still here and can probably attest to that because we hear some stories. And so I think we should feel great about it, but we also have to be attentive to the fact that I do not think the next biennium budget process is going to be better. So the next 2 years as we're getting into that will be about continuing to be fiscally responsible and strong and smart and efficient and effective. And finally, I do want to also give kudos to the business office, Linda McDermott and her team, who continue to do incredible work to change the way we deal with budgets, how we share that information, and how we do it in a format that's understandable and collaborative. Even up until even yesterday, Linda came to me with challenges that needed to be resolved still from the early days of CTC Link and the Go Live stuff. So they're still fighting that fight while we're trying to do these other things that are kind of overwhelming as well. So kudos to them.
Awesome. So I know you want to spend most of today's town hall celebrating some of the many achievements of the past academic year.
Yes, I do. So we kind of talked about this before because I feel like I'm the bearer of gray clouds and gloomy news for the last 6 months or so. And the reality is that we have a ton of awesome stuff happening here. And it struck me last week we had all the presidents from the community college system and a whole bunch of trustees here. And at the end of that 2-day thing, they have this little session where trustees get up and share what they think is great about their colleges and what's going on. And the things they were falling all over themselves about are things that happen here daily. Like just the magnitude, I think, of what we have happening overshadows many other institutions. So today we really need to kind of think about the kudos like I just gave to the business office, who deserves that stuff, and not let some of the chaos of other topics overwhelm the fact that we're doing awesome work. And I'll start with this. I say this every year. I don't think it ever generates more attendance, but if you care about what you do in student success, you have to go to a graduation. And we don't care which one you go to, But the product of what you all do, it doesn't matter if you are on the grounds crew, if you are a faculty member, if you process financial aid, it just doesn't matter. Students walking across the stage is the end result. And if you don't go to some of these things, you're missing a great reward for the work you do. Even if you're somebody who doesn't really see a lot of students each day. If you go to, so we had corrections graduation, was that last week, Jenny? Which is, here's what I would say. I wish everybody could be on stage and watch the faces of our graduates as they come across. Now, some of them look like deer in the headlights. They don't know what their name is. They don't know which way to walk. They're just absolutely paralyzed. But the rest of them are just incredibly full of joy and pride. You do that at corrections. Another great one is Pullman, ABE. The ABE one is, if you want to see why we have a diverse population of students and students who don't all fit into the same box, go to that one. It's awesome. And you see grandparents carrying their kids across the stage. It's the best part. So there's that. I mean, there's the arena graduation too, that is important, but it just continues to find places to celebrate and focus. I'll cover some stuff here. I promise to miss some really important things, so I'm going to cover myself here. As I'm doing this and we're talking about what are some of the points to celebrate, be thinking about things I missed, and we'll have a moment where we can have some other people come up and share some kudos of things that I missed.
Sounds good. So since we're here in the music auditorium, how about starting with SFCC?
Yeah, so I'll start with where I just came from, the Harpwire celebration of students. So Laura Reed, Ben Cartwright, and some other faculty who put that together, just came from listening to student work and their poems that they write about how they feel here, and just such a cool demonstration of the learning that happens and the talent that they have. I think another one you got to celebrate here is your first Bachelor of Applied Science of Integrated Behavioral Health. Graduates will be this year. It's actually a huge contribution to our community. The Cybersecurity Center of Excellence was renewed for 5 years, correct? I'm looking at Patrick to give me the no, that's not true. And then the other thing I want to mention here too, that probably some people are overly involved in and some people don't know, is the completion of the Fine Arts building. That building project was really hard on everybody involved, frankly. I just go say that. DES has described it as one of the worst projects they've ever dealt with. So DES is a state agency who manages our buildings. And I want to say that I met with the faculty and administrators of that building a few weeks ago and just we kind of talked through some of the challenges and appreciation for the work everybody had done to get there. And then I want to give them kudos for the fact that they responded to the fact that we just looked at it and said, look, when you all retire, you're going to be in this building. It's a beautiful building. Everybody loves it. How do we take the next step to make it a home? And those faculty, I think, to a person, are pretty engaged in that process. So they deserve a lot of credit. That's been a really long, hard process, as well as our capital crew, facilities crew, IT, the countless things that have had to be, that we've had to go through over and over and over again, have caused some real, I don't want to use the word trauma, but it's been really difficult for a lot of people, and we need to recognize that that building didn't just come together. It was super hard. But it is together. We're finishing that up. There's some legal things going on behind the scenes that we'll take care of, but it's a showcase for this campus and for our district. It's beautiful. If you've not been in there yet, you are totally missing out. And the things that the students do in there are going to be amazing. So that's another one for SFCC. And then I think the last thing is just the continued excellence in Running Start and your graduates and the number of graduates you have there. And I know that both colleges, we'll talk about enrollment here in a minute, are just doing well. They're trending upwards. And I would also recognize this is something I always kind of recognize when I walk across this campus, is that there is a sense of community here, not everywhere you go, but in so many more places than there was 10 years ago when I started here. A pride in what you do with guided pathways, and the work environment you have. It shows through. That's just my interpretation of it. I don't know how all the employees feel here, but that's what I see when I walk across campus.
That's awesome. Okay. How about SCC?
So at SCC, I think I got to give some kudos to the leadership team there who have once again gone into the guided pathways work and kind of rearranged that and blown it up, and I think are pushing it forward in a way that didn't happen before. I really think you have a couple incredible vice presidents who are really gung-ho about moving those things forward and serious about making a difference. I think that's always been the spirit at SCC, is can always get just a getting stuff done attitude. And the work that they're doing there is, I think, going to really pay dividends quickly. I continue to think that the work that's done in ABE and high school plus to move adults into the college pathway is an invaluable part of what happens in our community. And then I also think the deans and faculty who have been working with Julie Parks on workforce education need a huge thank you and recognition for their flexibility and big picture vision of what's happening there for our community. There's other things too, but I'll leave some of that for someone you to point out too.
Okay, so taking a broader look, what are some additional achievements from this past year?
Well, I'll continue on the workforce part of it. You know, one of the things that I did at the beginning of, so I've been the chancellor for 2 years now, 2 years and weeks or something like that. And had said right at the beginning, one of the two things that I thought were important to do were, one was to hire a director of tribal relations to work on our relationships with the tribes. And that has been paying dividends. Dr. Naomi Bender is making huge inroads for us. Some of the work SCC is doing with the Natural Resources Program and faculty delivering courses in Shalom is stuff we've tried to do for years and years and years, and just the help that she has provided as a conduit has been really amazing. But the other one is Julie Parks, who's Vice President of Workforce Development, and having her experience and expertise in our community has absolutely raised our profile in the workforce. That she has built relationships that we haven't had time to foster. She's got credibility, and that includes going after, with our grants office and others, the Strengthening Community Colleges grant, which is a $5.7 million. This is my look to Jenny, like, yes, 5.7. And then I saw Susan come into, and the electronics program made to the second round of the CHIPS grant, which is a competitive grant for semiconductors. So our community continuing to push forward on those things under our guidance. And I think that on a workforce perspective, we are what everybody else wants to be. If you watch what our four-year partners are doing and watch closely with their marketing and the language they use in different places, it sounds like us. So we have to recognize how important we are, celebrate that, promote it, and own it, because that's the bread and butter. That's where we get our credibility from. And it's, what's the word I'm looking for? It's flattering that everybody wants to be us, but we have to be better than everybody else. And those, Naomi and Julie are two people who are helping us get there. So I just overall am impressed. I think I had that moment also when walking across both campuses in the Head Start office with the congressional office staff, and just like, we're loaded with talent here. I think most people don't get to see a cross-section of our district every day, but man, you walk across here and the people that are helping students are incredible, the faculty are incredible, you go to the Head Start areas, just, I was as impressed as the congressional staffers that day, and we made a huge impression. And that's what we need to continue to do as an organization, is focus on the things that show value to our community, especially now.
What about the rebrand?
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
Sitting up here with the marketing crew all staring right at me. I think the rebrand has been a tremendous success. I love it. And so I'm in the community probably 80% of the time is where I spend, where I get my feedback from. And it just, to a person, people are really, really impressed, love it. Of course, there are some folks that we get on, we do budget survey or different things that are not supportive of that. But here's the deal. I just kind of talked about it, which is we are in a more competitive higher ed environment than probably any of us have ever been in right now. We have our neighboring higher ed institutions looking at our market share as a place that they can take students from. And we're not going to let that happen. And the first way you do that is an awareness campaign. So our awareness of our new brand is a huge part of that. And then as we start breaking that down and focusing on the value proposition we have, we're going to really start banging away on that again and again and again. And I will tell you this, I've said it to our leadership crew, and I know it's been repeated in certain different places. The fact that we are trying to be fiscally responsible and look at resources, and we're worried about this and we're worried about that, will not impact our effort to market, promote, and share our value with the community. In fact, we'll double down on it. We are not going to get lost in the noise here. And I think we have more things to share about how great our institution is and what we do in all the different arenas, workforce and transfer and adult education and Head Start. Carolyn Casey used to say all the time, I thought it was really profound, which is, being the best kept secret is not something to be proud of. And it's true. We have lots of things to share that we know about, that our community doesn't know about, and we're just going to keep pushing on that over and over and over and over again. And so, be aware. There you go, marketing team. There's your permission slip to do whatever you want to, basically. Yeah, I know.
Uh-oh.
So I'll just say again, the marketing part is one of those things where you're going to get different opinions. Some people will say, we don't need to be spending money on that, or how much money are we spending on that? And I can tell you in a short amount of time how much it is. But the alternative is to get the same complaints of, you're not promoting my program. How come we're not on this? How come we're not there? I'm taking the option, we don't want people saying, you're not doing enough. Because we have the ability to do more. And we're going to continue to do that.
So looking within our organization, what else are we celebrating?
I think we need to celebrate the project, the security project, where we spent almost $5 million at each campus to up and heighten the security, both with I'm not going to get this right, but the electronic key locks and the cameras. That was an imperative at the time that we funded that. We used some district reserves to make that happen, along with some distributed state money. Huge improvement. I think we're thankful that the low barrier homeless shelter on Trent was moved. That has helped SCC, but it has not changed it entirely. I think we will continue to always need to upgrade security on our campuses. And I'll tell you why this is always going to be an issue. It's not necessarily about Spokane, but both these campuses have been around for 60 years, and you build those campuses with the idea of, like, I want everybody on this campus having picnics and riding bikes, and it's meant to draw people in. And when you have groups of people that are not there to do positive things, we're designed in a way we can't really stop that. Like, it's just still wide open. And so these locks and cameras and stuff are step one in trying to create a safe working environment for you, as well as a learning environment that's productive for our students. So first and foremost, it has to be safe for our employees and our students. And then we also, I know, have an institution that's full of people who have empathy for folks who are having hard times. I feel horrible for folks who are out there too, but we have to take care of the obligation we have here first. And I think we did a lot this year to make that better. There will be more as we get going down the road. And I think the other one I wanted to do was talked a little bit about IT with Fine Arts Building, but I think IT also deserves some thanks and some recognition for, there's their supervisor, for being resilient. And I think that's an important part of what they're doing and have a lot on their plates, including computer rotation replacement, cybersecurity issues, new buildings. It's a lot. And we're trying to do our best to kind of work to get you to a spot that is even more supportive and recognized throughout the institution. But I kind of have watched that this year, and I think, doing a great job. And then the last thing I had to bring notes today. I told Melanie, I'm not as prepared for this as I normally am. There's just a lot of things to look at. I think the CRM too, Aaron, where's Aaron? There's Aaron. And it's not, yeah, they could clap for you. So Aaron, I think, is always the face of the CRM project. But if you look at what's happening with the CRM project for multiple years, that's a team effort. And I use that example because I want to make a point. And we often recognize Aaron and other people as a group. When I was talking to you about the tour we took the other day, I was walking across campus and just looking at the individuals that we have here who are doing great things, and was thinking about convocation and how we award the Sailing Award, Exceptional Faculty Award, Outstanding Classified Staff Award. There's a bunch of awards, right? You know what we're missing? Is any type of group award. It's all individuals, which is important. But most of the work, if not all of the work we do here, is group work. And we talk about teamwork and culture and working together. Like, there's nothing we do here that's not group oriented. So where's the award for financial aid who implemented the simplified FAFSA award? Which I don't know if you get an award for implementing the simplified FAFSA, but they should. Where's the group award for CRM? And the list goes on and on and on. Cosmetologies, curriculum redesign. It just goes on and on. So I'm going to change that, and next fall, when we come back, either we'll have the list of new group awards, or we'll actually kind of start by awarding a new round of those, whether it's group innovations, group heavy lift, group heroes, those types of things. So if you have thoughts about that, please share. But we as a group need to celebrate the efforts that are made collaboratively across divisions and across people, not just individuals. Both are important. So sorry I had to use you as an example, Aaron, but we'll give CRM a group award right off the bat. Yeah.
Okay, last official question, then we're going to get to yours. A throwback question for you, Chancellor. When you were first hired as Chancellor, you shared a very moving speech about the direction we were heading in a variety of areas. Could you please share any good news that has come from our work and any challenges we're still facing?
So this pre-casted question, I'll have to give Brandy Mader credit for this. She actually brought up a bunch of quotes from the first speech I did at Convocation, which had quotes in it like this. What if we were the most recognized higher ed institution in the region? Because that's what we're going to do. What if we could build offerings and supports that change the college-going percentage of underemployed adults in our region? Because that is what we're going to do. And then it goes on to, I did like 10 of these things. And some of it's about building our presence in the workforce, being the most recognized college, using our size to our advantage. And I looked through all those and tried to answer the question as it was presented to me by Melanie, but here's my takeaway. What I realized when reading that is that we have been in a very reactionary state for the last 2 years. First of all, when I got hired as Chancellor, domino effect of moving places, slots, reorganization, we're just trying to get the right bodies in the right places. And it was reactionary. You have to be reactionary. And then the budget and political landscape that we're working through now puts us all in a reactionary mode. What I read there was what needs to be part of the strategic plan going forward. And we currently have a strategic plan that will technically end in the fall, this fall. We've done the bid process for a facilitator for that process, but those are the types of things that we're going to put in writing and in our action plan going forward. Dr. Laurie Hunt's going to lead that effort, and what I see there, so without getting into a bunch of details there because we haven't signed contracts or done those things, timelines are not written, but we want to get to a point where we are proactive and not reactive to the elements that we're working on. And I think that goes back to the original point, which is understanding what's happening at the federal level, understanding the rules better than anybody else, being present more than anybody else, being innovative, and being the most progressive higher ed institution in this region. So I don't want to go back and read something and feel like we got half of it done. I want our strategic plan to be a guiding project that really helps us be excellent all the way through. So my original things from convocation, we did about half of them so far, but I think it just shows a huge room for advancement and improvement along the way.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, it's time for questions from the audience or from online. Nothing from online? Who has a question? Who has a celebration? Fitz, I know you do.
There's a bunch of tenured faculty that we're celebrating this afternoon.
Yeah.
So for those people online, that was Jared, right? I can't see through the light. Talking about our faculty tenure celebration that will happen after this event. So I think there's 30 newly tenured faculty members that will celebrate this afternoon. A huge lifetime achievement.
Questions? Yep, there's one over here. Neil's going to bring the microphone so the online folks can hear.
Hello, my name is Kelly. I'm trying to be a student athlete this year. I'm a Jimmy Carter kid, you can tell by my gray hair. First degree was hotel restaurant management at SCC. I still think the bakery in Orlando's is Spokane's best secret. I came back to study, and in 2000 my degree was delivered about 2 months late. So I moved to Europe, and I almost went to jail because you need proof of a diploma. And now I understand that you have a third party that gets diplomas out. So SCC and the community colleges of Spokane dropped the ball on that. They were late. Also, I was looking for the new logo this year as a student athlete, but those came out late. I have more gray hair than the tennis coach had this year. I inquired, I wanted to be a tennis player. I had 1 year left as a sophomore. I played in 1997. Coach said that he was looking for a 19 and 20-year-old player. Well, I'm a 47-year-old sophomore. Now the tennis program is done. All of the programs in the state of Washington and Oregon in our conference is finished. When I inquired to try and play at a community college in California, I was written back on the same day, welcomed with open arms, asked about dormitory, everything. On this campus, we have a state-of-the-art athletic center. There's no administration to talk to about these questions. Had to go over the SCC. So I'm paying $10 a quarter a semester, $50 a semester for a brand new state-of-the-art system, and there's nothing to talk to. I'm an alumni. I gave money to the tennis program, so need to pay more attention to these things because SCC and CCS is dropping the ball on them.
Okay, thanks. And I believe you and I have talked once before about that. We did eliminate the tennis program this year as part of budget reduction in the athletic department. As a district, we have more sports than any other school in the NWAC conference, and so that was a cost savings effort. And so some of those things I think we've talked about on the side once before, and I'd be happy to entertain those conversations offline again with you. I'm available always.
Okay, other questions? Jeff?
Yes, this was from earlier, and what suggestions regarding graduation, what suggestions do you have for student services employees who are working during student graduations and can't attend? So to your comment, people should attend graduations, people who are doing testing labs, things like that, especially the way the schedule fell this year.
So this is a tricky question from my seat, because if I say it wrong, the presidents and vice presidents will lose their mind. So here's the thing is, I think I said it earlier with some enthusiasm, like we want everybody to see a graduation. If you want to go to a graduation, we want you to see that. There certainly are times when we have the need to cover spaces across our district. I think you need to talk to your direct supervisor. If that doesn't work out, you can kind of start moving up the list a little bit. But I think it's well understood that we want to accommodate our classified staff, our administrators, in the ability to celebrate our graduates and the work that we do. And so that should be just a question to be asked. And I want to say this too, I meant to say this at the beginning, so that question triggered my memory. The other thing I want to say about graduation is we do not spend enough time or give enough recognition to the staff and individuals who volunteer at graduation. And you get recognized, though there's a mention in the script of it, but without that group, that wouldn't happen. That we could not pull off that event at either college. It's just an unselfish way to give back, and I can't believe that we fill that up every year. It's just a nice way to do that. And it really is, the funny thing is that's one of those days when you don't want to be visible. That event is all about that moment when the person in the audience watches their person walk across the stage. So we don't over-celebrate. We don't have keynote speakers at most things. We have a process of getting your person on stage and walking them across, and that's our focus. And without the staff doing that, we wouldn't be able to pull it off. So this is your early thank you and encouragement to volunteer for that work. But I think if somebody's feeling not empowered to attend a graduation, you got to start asking some questions.
Thank you. Other questions?
Stephanie, I think that's one down here.
Thanks.
I just wanted to share a celebration that Colville is officially back up and has network connectivity as of 1:15 today. I have not sent the email out yet because I've been here.
Thank you. That was a lot of work. Other questions? Any other celebrations?
Thank you. It has been quite a year here at the Falls, and I wanted to give some celebrations to some people, specifically in the code department, which really does a great job, especially with our concurrent enrollment students. Elizabeth Thomas specifically, and then Junie Lowe Taylor. The amount of applications that we are receiving for next year is stratospheric compared to last year, and last year was record numbers. And so the work they're doing is amazing. I also want to shout out Justin Flory, who's putting together all the events across campus. Running around, that guy gets his steps in, for sure. For sure. But they're all doing amazing work, and I just wanted to give them a shout out.
Awesome. I'll add on to that as one item that we often talk about and I think is often misunderstood, which is enrollments. So as administrators, we're always, sharing enrollments up, enrollments down, and I want people to, I think the reaction we always get is like, oh, you're worried about the money. That's never part of the conversation, the beginning part of enrollment. Enrollment is the #1 indicator if you're doing the right things or doing the wrong things. When enrollment is going up, we're doing the right things, whether it's the work that's being done with outreach, marketing, applications, the process, advising, whatever it is. How do we get people in the seats? And you can see it in the data if you watch carefully when we're doing a good job and when we're not doing a good job. Certainly, there's a lot of enrollment things that are trends and fluctuations that have to do with the economy and job market, but you can absolutely see good work show up in enrollment trends, 100%. And both colleges are on an upward swing that's around double digits each quarter, fighting back to pre-pandemic levels. And I always want to mention this. I said it at the board meeting last week. When we talk about pre-pandemic levels, we have to factor in this truth, which is before the pandemic, we were losing 2 to 3% of enrollment every single year for probably 7 or 8 years before that. Like, we were just like a consistent slide down. So if we are able to climb back to pre-pandemic levels, not only have we climbed back the percentage that we lost, but we've also beat the trend that was happening before we got to that weird point. So the work that's happening in guided pathways, the support work that happens all across the district pays off. And we are maybe not leading the state, but we are one of the highest achieving colleges in that area as time goes on. So enrollment's good.
Awesome.
Other questions?
Yeah, Jeff has a question? No, 10 minutes, okay. Questions, celebrations? Yes, in the back.
I have a celebration, and I've been here a long time, so sometimes people call me a historian. But when I first worked here, our success rates as far as getting students that degree that they said they wanted was really, really terrible. And I think both colleges, in embracing the guided pathways mentality, realizing that we can't just do the job that's in front of us well, we all have to work together in order to get the students all the way through the life cycle. It's not about whether it's my job or your job, it's all of us. And when I look at the data, I get really excited because our success rates have gone, for both colleges, have been trending upwards during the last quite a few years now, and that makes me happy because that takes all of us. So I just like to celebrate everybody working together.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you.
I want to recognize what Bonnie just said is how important that is. One of the things that we used to talk, or was talked about previously, is we didn't do a very good job of celebrating successes together. And Bonnie just recognized both colleges' success rates and how important that is for both places. We didn't celebrate successes well together. We did not accept defeats together. That's a district thing, that's an SCC thing, that's an SFCC thing, and that does not help us in this environment. And I think we are going to continue to try to work closer and closer together so that we all benefit from the wins. We have to. And so I really appreciate you saying that.
Thanks. I think we have time for one more question, one more celebration.
I'll be super quick, so hopefully we can have two. I just wanted to celebrate the faculty counselors at SCC. They redid how they're accepting students into just the office and adjusting their drop-in hours, and we've had really, really great feedback from students about that. So that was just a wonderful student-centered pivot, and I want to celebrate that.
I also, Patrick, walked through your new student orientation the other day, and walking through would be a poor description of me trying to mingle through there like I was going through a nightclub. I mean, it was packed in there, super impressive, and good spirit in there too.
Awesome. Anyone else? Okay.
I suppose we should be saying who's this. So Dean Pelchat from SFCC.
I want to give a shout out to the workforce teams on both campuses. Kathy Albin, Wendy Jones, and their team. The amount of students that are flowing through both of those offices these days is incredible. We were looking at some stats at SFCC just the other day, and we've quadrupled the amount of resources we're handing out just in this year from last year through BFET. A secondary shout out to the business office for having to deal with the complexities of all the workforce grants and the tracking and the extra work that we keep giving that office with all the other money we keep bringing in. Tremendous amount of work. And the thing that you don't see with those students too is they come into that office with all the trauma of their life behind them, looking for a way to get out of it. And not only are they handing out those financial resources to make that happen, but they also have to sort through those experiences with those students in real time. And it's a heavy ask for the actual function of that office. So big round of applause for them.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, we're to our last question. What, Chancellor, would you like everyone today to understand and take with them from this town hall?
So I have to go back to the beginning I have two things. One is remember when I was talking about everybody has a thing? These go a long ways, and corrections go a long ways too. We're all in it together. Secondly, what I want people to take out of this is we went through a hard year. I mean, real hard. In fact, you could probably count 2 years, as I just talked about, our ability to react to what's going on. And we still are just an incredibly excellent two-year college district. We are as good as anybody in the state. We're solid and stable. Things are good. State-wise, we're doing the good there. There are some real challenges and concerns at the federal level, but I want to say this too. We're doing everything we can. We're right in the middle of it. And frankly, most of the things in the higher ed arena that are challenging or scary for higher ed institutions, we're not the target. I mean, y'all have been reading the paper, right? Like you've heard of Harvard has some challenges going on. That's the target. That doesn't exclude us from that, but it also does put us in a position that, frankly, if we want to look at the silver lining of kind of a gray cloud, we're in great position. We are an institution that is focused on workforce and transfer, and frankly, transfer is workforce too. Those people trying to move up to be, teachers at Eastern or whatever it happens to be. We are low cost, low time to completion, and we're just in the spot where we look appealing to society and we look appealing to legislators. We just need to keep doing what we're doing and doing it at a high level and doing everything we can to get every person who walks in the door across the stage. And we will be in great shape. So don't kid yourselves, we have some real challenges in front of us, but I just think we are a group that's capable of taking on any of that stuff. And so I want you to celebrate the rest of this year, the work that we've done and the work that we got ahead of us, and know that we'll start the next year off in a positive way. I'm just happy that we're at where we are right now.
Thank you, Chancellor. And before we conclude, I just want to mention that we've got our pet bandanas, our new social media campaign. So I think they're out in the lobby. So if you have a pet, you want to put a bandana on and take a picture and post it on social media, this is a great time to do it. So with that, thank you all for being here and have a great rest of your year.
Thank you.